Hey there, it's your boy Mr. G, and welcome to Road to Freedom. This is a Road to Freedom bike talk, and I'm gonna get a little bit more into the 2018 Harley-Davidson Softail Fat Boy. And the reason for this is it's really interesting to me, and I'm hearing good and bad from the bike, and I thought that my perspective would be important because I'm hearing a lot of the good from guys that post videos that work for Harley Davidson. I'm hearing a lot of the bad from guys that don't work from Harley Davidson. So it's like the salesman versus the customer or prospective customer kind of perspective. So I thought I'd get a little bit more into it. Now, this will be a two-part video. Discussion and then some bonus footage from when I rode the Fat Boy and actually was on it long enough that I did get it to turn quite successfully. Notice I did not say rather easily. So I've heard extremes as far as this is a completely reckless, useless design flaw idea by the customization engineer designer dudes at Harley Davidson, and how could they make a bike that is just useless? Like, you can't turn it. Why would you buy it? If you saw my video on it, you know that I liked it, and my perspective is it's just more of a showpiece of a bike now. But let's just go back for a second, because I've ridden so many bikes at this point. I don't know. I lost count. I tried to count one time. It was like, in the 40s or something. I was like, all right, whatever, forget it. And most of what I've ridden is Harley. So I'm going to talk to you about bikes that I have ridden that turn poorly and compare. The VMAX. What you have here is a problem with the wheelbase being too short. The rake is a small issue with the bike, and so it has a big, huge, fat tire on top of that, and it turns poorly. Now, unlike the 2018 Fat Boy, it actually is made for drag racing. It's literally a bike that you would take to the drag strip, so not that big of an issue. It turns, but it's definitely a situation on the newer one, the latest gen, that you go to turn and you're like, oh, need to start my turn a little bit wider, a little bit sooner, and then you're good to go. The FJR, I think I was on a 2014 once, and I think I might even have a video that might be the first video review that I ever did with my GoPro. And I'm like, does it turn? Yeah, it turns. And really, I was trying to be nice, and it didn't turn quite that well. But it does turn. It's my opinion, turns a little bit easier in the VMAX, and it was the same situation. You got the wheelbase, front wheel, rear wheel, too close together, bike up high, and the rake is probably not enough, and the length of the bike not enough. I don't know on the newer ones if that's been resolved, but it was an issue where it was like you easily could catch on to, like, this is how you carve it up with this bike. You could make up the difference on that bike very easily and really rip into some turns once you caught on. But, it was certainly not a 600cc sport bike that carves up turns. Now, there's no real excuse for this kind of stuff, generally speaking, because I owned a Hayabusa first gen. It tore into turns. That thing was a whale. It tore into turns, no problem. So, Zero's DSR, I think I rode. And it's like their top spec Zero. And they told me, man, you don't understand. Wait till you feel the acceleration on this bike. It'll hang with a brand new Porsche, like a Porsche 911. It'll hang with it. And I was like pleasantly surprised to find out that they were right about the torque and the acceleration. It was just absolutely bananas, like off the charts bananas. But when I took my first turn, I was a little surprised, and when I took my second and third turn on it, I was like, okay, a little bit worse than the VMAX and the FJR. Thing turns, but you definitely have to be aware. Again, I think you got a bike that's up pretty high. Wheelbase is just no good. The bike is not long enough. But I am not a design engineer of bikes, so I could be wrong. Harley Davidson Breakout, the old one and the new one, both issues with turning. Harley Davidson Wide Glide, similar. That one had poor brakes and didn't turn very well, which is a shame because this thing is like a breathtakingly beautiful bike. But then this new Fat Boy comes out, and I have to tell you, this bike is by far worse than the bikes I just mentioned. Those other bikes are easily rideable bikes that just like turning isn't their high point. It's not the thing you're gonna brag about. But this new Harley Fat Boy it's actually bad at turning to the point that you probably shouldn't buy one. There are a lot of really cool showpiece bikes you can buy that will turn just fine and look just as good. Just look at the rest of the Harley and Indian lineup. Look at the Ducati lineup. Look at the BMW lineup. Look at the Triumph lineup. I mean, they're making some really sharp stuff. There's no reason to settle if you really want a showpiece. The issues with turning typically are the rake of the fork. How far out away from the bike is it? How close? The wheelbase. How close together are the front and rear wheel? And the tires that you put on it. And in this case, the rake and the wheelbase of the Fat Boy are pretty much the same. And the old Fat Boy turned amazingly well. Even the low version scrapes, but it turns. So what you have here is just solely about the tire selection that they put on. Now, if you've ever looked at, or better yet, ridden Triumph's Rocket, has a gigantic rear wheel, and people talk non-stop about how it turns so well and shouldn't. But if you look at the wheel itself, it's rounded out. It's sculpted and shaped into a rounded out shape. You can lean it over and you're just on the side of the tire. There's just extra side to the tire. But not the case with this new Fat Boy. It is flat. It's almost like there is no roundness at all to the tire. It's barely a round tire. It's similar to a car tire. And I mean this way, obviously, So, then you got a 180 on the front, and it's almost completely flat. So when you go to turn the bike, what happens is the bike, it literally feels like it's pulling you back up. Now, I took some bonus footage when I was riding it because I was getting into the bike. I was really digging the bike because the engine is just insanely fun. And I was like, I will turn. Like in my mind, I'm like, I will get this thing to turn. So I started hanging. If I had a rear GoPro, it would have been amazing to see. I just started hanging my body weight, off the side of the bike. And so it's like I'm hanging 215 pounds off the bike, like I'm trying to scrape a knee kind of hanging. Like I was really trying to get my weight to pull the bike, and it worked. I was able to start to get the bike to take turns, but you got a situation there, like if you take one and then another, you literally like have to hop over to the other side like you're in a, you know, a 600cc sport bike race, hanging off the bike to get it to turn. And then on top of that, because of the front tire being flat and being so big, it doesn't like that. So every once in a while you'll get head shake as it's trying to like straighten itself out, because it only wants to go straight. It doesn't want to turn. But that being said, it was a hoot. I actually enjoyed it, because I'm crazy about motorcycles, and I enjoyed the differences. So I'm going to include a part 2 to this video where I show about 4 minutes of footage where I am getting the thing to turn really well. So you can see it can be turned if you want to work for it. And that brings me to my conclusion. So I don't think that this is Harley Davidson fail. I think it's Harley Davidson taking a risk. And I like that. They're talking about putting 100 new bikes out. They just put 2 Sportsters out that was like, come on, man. You reconfigured the bike and you barely did that. But you know what? They're trying. They're trying like every idea under the sun. And in this case, they were like, it's called a Fat Boy. Let's make the front forks so that like it looks like it's so fat that you're starting to lose the front headlight in the seal. The thing needs to go on a diet. I love the look. And I think that like taking a risk and putting 2 tires that big on a bike, like, it's kind of a cool risk. You can do whatever you want on paper. You can engineer things, you know, in life. In life, you can talk about all kinds of things that work on paper. But you got to put it on the bike and try it. And see what comes of it. And you don't know. You just never know if you're going to hit a home run. In this market, like, sometimes a bike that nobody thought would be a winner, just the prospective buyers just decide that this is the new thing. And it becomes like a fad thing. And so they took a shot. And I kind of appreciated it. So, this is your boy, Mr. G. Check out part 2 of the video. Catch me on Instagram, Facebook, Motovlog. I'll be posting what I hope to be a lot more Triple C motorcycle reviews. I am now going to go upstairs and do family stuff. So, catch you on the flip side. Hope you enjoy these 2 videos. Please feel free to drop comments in the comments section. Like, share, and subscribe. If you disagree with me and you've ridden the bike, totally cool. That's kind of the purpose of this thing. If you have something you want to say that'll educate me on some of the things that I said, you think like, what does this guy talk about? I build bikes in my shop and they all turn really well. Let me school this guy. Okay? Then drop it in the comments section. I'm open to it. Peace. See you in part 2.